What's up, guys? Welcome to a new video. It's November, which means we're getting close to Black Friday and the holiday deals, and I figured I'd make a quick video about what to expect, things to look out for, especially if you're looking to buy a MacBook Air. Normally when deals come up, Black Friday, etc., the kind of philosophy around that is to buy last gen's products if you want to save money, because they're generally about the same in terms of performance and things like that. And then if you want the bleeding edge, you go with the whatever's out at the moment. But I think for those of you looking to buy MacBooks Airs specifically, especially if you're students and you're just trying to get the most out of your money, that philosophy doesn't really jive well. So I have an early 2020 MacBook Air, the Intel i5 10th gen version with 16 gigs of RAM, the half a terabyte of storage. And for me personally, I regret making that decision. I felt like I should have waited till late 2020, got the new M1, and I would have had a much better time now, right? And so my reasoning for that is because M2 is out. So last gen technically would be M1, but if you're looking to really pinch those pennies, then you'd go back even further towards the Intel ones. And especially on things like eBay and other websites like that, it gets a little confusing when you're having to search in, last generation MacBook. You might get a mix of different searches. So I just want to make sure you keep your eyes peeled. So I would not recommend buying the Intel MacBook Air. And I have some performance charts, some battery charts that we'll go over to kind of explain my reasoning behind that. So I brought up some charts here. These are all from the Linus Tech Tips channel, LTT team over there. They're great people. They have really good videos. If you want some more minute details, go over there. But I'm going to give you guys a very general purpose overview. And so they brought up Cinebench here, which is a synthetic test that tests the CPU over short to long runs and kind of gives you an overall numeration of the performance. And so the Intel MacBook Air is in the middle of the pack and the M1s are at the top. And as you can see, the Intel one's getting smoked. And so we have Geekbench here, which you probably see more often. This one's used a lot more when it comes to the MacBook world. And again, the Intel one's just getting smoked by the M1 MacBooks. And they have other laptops here listed on the Intel side of things, the Dell and the HPs. Those are also great laptops. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to be speaking strictly about the MacBook Air specifically, right? And so, as you can see, the MacBook Air is getting, the Intel MacBook Air, please, is getting smoked by the M1 MacBook Air. And remember, Intel is last gen, M1 is just last gen, right? Since we're on M2 right now. And to kind of further that understanding, we have the M2 versus M1. And so, this is why I don't know if I'd fully recommend getting the M2 Air. It's a great laptop. I think the screen is fantastic. They changed the design up to kind of be more synonymous with the MacBook Pros. As far as just performance goes, it isn't a massive jump. So I think the best middle ground right there would be to go with the M1 MacBook Air. If you can find it on deal, like I said, $800 is probably where you're going to find it. You get it lower, I mean, it's an absolute steal. But on this chart here, you see that the M1 Air and the M2 are not too far off. The M2 is definitely more performant, but not by a significant margin. And when we go to the Geekbench side of things, same story. M2 is doing a lot better, but not by a significant margin. Now, where I think it gets really important is where we talk about battery life. I don't have battery life figures for the for the Intel MacBook Air that I have here, but just for my personal use, if I'm doing anything that isn't just web browsing, it's horrible. Like I'll probably get maybe 4 to 5 hours. But if I'm just doing strictly light web browsing, like most students do, everything is in Google Docs. You're mostly not doing anything outside of web browsing and messaging, things like that. Then it's fine. You get 6-7 hours out of it is primarily where it sits. So if you're looking at this battery life test over from the LTT channel, they're getting double-digit battery life numbers with the performance that they get that we showed earlier, right? And so it's like it's such a huge sacrifice to go with the MacBook Air Intel edition instead of going for the M1 or M2, right? I think it just makes a lot more sense to go with Intel, and so we'll go. I mean, whoa, I think it just makes more sense to go personally with the M1, M2 if you get that bread. So displays, cameras, keyboards, everything else about a laptop that isn't just battery life or performance, right? The M1 equipped MacBooks especially the MacBook Air, take the same body from the Intel editions, and they don't really change too much. By then the keyboard had already been fixed, and so the camera is okay, the display is solid, and everything else about it is just good. And then if you decide to bump up to that M2 version, then you get the upgraded display, the nicer keyboard. I'm not too sure if it's changed very much. Hopefully not for the worse, because the MacBook Air keyboard was already pretty solid by that point. And you get an upgraded camera, which does look nicer, but personally for me isn't a huge thing that I'm worried about, because besides Zoom calls and FaceTimes and things like that, I'm not too worried about having a very nice camera on my laptop, but it's definitely a plus, right? And so now that we're heading into Black Friday and the holiday season, I just wanted to say, I think that your money needs to be spent well, especially for your students who are, pinching pennies and things like that. And so I'd recommend go for the M1 MacBook Air, and please do not get the Intel version. No matter how cheap it is, I mean, like we saw, you were getting it for about $700, which is ridiculous. And if money isn't that big of an issue for you, then you could step up to that M2, and you'll get more software updates, and you'll be a happy camper for a little bit longer. But yeah, middle ground and best bang for your buck would be the M1 Air. And yeah, thanks guys for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. For those of you who are on the Windows side of things, definitely throw some recommendations in there for people who aren't looking to get Macs and things like that. And yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.